in terms of pre-auction review, we are going to look at Massachusetts, which has some sales that are coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as Massachusetts, they're classified as a redemption deed state, but they also offer tax deeds as well. And there's really three different ways that they offer properties. First, they offer what's called a tax title property. And these are the redemption deed properties. They're sold with a 6-month redemption period, and they pay out an investor a 16% annual rate of return. And so that's going to be at 1.3% per month. And you, after that 6-month period, you can go ahead and start the foreclosure process. For properties that don't sell at the tax title property, they end up having what's called a tax collector deed sale. And so these properties are going to be offered without a redemption period, but you still need to go through the foreclosure process after buying the collector's deed. So in that case, you're still going to need to foreclose on it. There's not going to be the redemption period. You can start that foreclosure immediately, but you're still going to have to essentially kind of go through their version of the foreclosure. And then they have what's called a foreclosure auction. And these are essentially ones that didn't sell in the first two sales, and then the county will go ahead and foreclose on the property and offer it up as a normal tax deed after it goes through the local land court.
That is an interesting process that they have there. A little bit like I guess some of the other states, where you'll have one system that kind of bleeds into another, like Pennsylvania a little bit, in that way. But yeah, it sounds like starts off as a redemption deed, but ultimately, can turn into a regular tax deed, even post foreclosure as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so they're going to use premium bid. They're going to start at the lowest, the back taxes, and they're going to bid up in price. Now, one thing that's different about Massachusetts versus a lot of other states is the cities, the towns, they're the ones that handle the tax sales. So the county may have some tax sale if it's within county land, but most of the tax sales their property taxes come out locally. So the city is the one collecting the property taxes, and so they're the one that's going to be essentially offering up the property to sell. So that means that there's, hundreds of different cities and townships. I have to look up the exact number. We have a big list of them that are going to hold auctions versus just a county level. And so it makes it where cities may have an auction every single year. They may have one every couple of years if they don't have as many properties that they auction. So it's a little bit different that way, but there is some good opportunity there for investors that live there. One other thing to mention is that they're also going to be on-site auctions.
And let me get a couple of these pulled up here.
Yeah, in fact, we can look at that first one, kind of the first one.
This one?
Yeah. So a lot of these some are handled by the city and the city attorney. There's many also that will use different local auction companies. So go ahead and pull up to that first one in the city of Pittsfield. This is an auction that's coming up on the 13th. And so they only have 2 properties that are available within the sale, but we'll go ahead and look at each one of them. It is nice that they do provide photos of it. And I think I saw
Yeah.
in some where they had interior photos as well on some of them.
Oh yeah, they've got interior images on this. That's pretty handy. We don't see that all the time. This is a nice property too. I mean, at least it's pretty much a usable house, just like it is right now.
Yeah,
It needs
with some
carpet
carpet.
or flooring, but minimal. And we've got an address here on it as well. It's the city of Pittsfield here. Not me to do that. Here we go. And I think we can have some kind of image here of it. You know, their image is August of last year, 2025. It's kind of hidden, I guess, by that big bush right there.
Yeah, can you expand your screen so we can see it a little better? So you
Not
can
gonna give us a
you can see
value
it.
anyway.
Yeah, you can see they have the auction information. Sometimes you can look down and they'll give you an estimate down there below. But you can see that Redfin's value is about 238.
Yeah. Yeah, which yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, so this will be an on-site auction. You'll be, there with local bidders. There's going to be a $10,000 deposit, and then they give you 30 days to close on it, which is nice, which means that you don't have to have you have to have the funds available, but you don't have to pay for it, on that day. They give you some time to get all that together.
And they also are selling this lot for 10,000. And maybe we can get a shot of it here. Yeah, I think it's back there, right?
Yeah, I was looking at some of the homes that were in the area, and there was some expensive homes around there. There were some
Yeah,
million-dollar homes.
I could totally see that. It does look like it's a nice area.
So it's pretty good sized lot. Of course we just talked about being buildable. Even though we assume that it's buildable, we can see how much bigger it is than some of even the home lots next to it. We would go ahead and check and make sure that it is buildable, that everything looks good before bidding on it.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, let's pull up the next cell here.
In fact, go back to that same auction we were looking at, because there's a couple of past sales that have some interesting there. Not the Sullivan ones, that first one. And so you can see that this city is coming up here. Well, they don't have it, but they're going to have it coming up. And then let's look at the town of Spencer.
Oh, yeah, they sold a couple.
I thought that first property was really interesting. I mean, it's a church, but it's a cool looking building.
Yeah. And they tell us how much it sold for.
No, we'd probably have to go to the county and figure out what it sold for there. But it also includes this big, huge building as well. That big building behind it. So I mean, it is a big project. I'm not quite sure. It might have sold for pretty cheap, and it probably cost some money to go ahead and restore it. But it is pretty unique.
Yeah, it is a pretty interesting property. They also sold these other lots. The lots actually look pretty nice.
Yeah, yeah. I looked at a couple of them. I think I looked at that one on Chester Street from a Google Street View.
Yeah, I mean that looks like a nice lot, and that looks like a nice lot too. Yeah, they don't say how much. No, I guess still they wanted a $10,000 deposit on these ones as well.
Yeah, a lot of them will have a $10,000 deposit.
Yeah, that's a great lot. The other one I thought was equally good. Looks like there's a big property right next to it.
Yeah, that last one was almost half an acre.
Oh, $2,500 deposit on this one. Yeah, that one's 0.67.
I think it has to do with how much the property is valued will depend on the deposit amount.
It's 0.74 acre. Lots of good land in this, along with that property there. It's kind of an interesting sale.
Yeah, that last one, it looks like that it was, that last one is I think that's kind of an over the counter essentially. You've got to submit an offer on it. I think it's an old firehouse, but can't remember if I think that's what it said.
Interesting.
And then we can go back and look at the town of Clinton. Now this one was really interesting. I didn't have time to get into it today, but I want to find out what this sold for because this is
Yeah,
8
8
townhouse.
townhouses.
Yeah, and they even have interior photos.
Holy cow. And these are townhouses. I mean, it's newer air conditioning on all of them here. They've all got vinyl windows, so they can't be that old. They don't look like they're that old.
No, there's one that faces the front, and then the rest of them are face the back there. But the ones in the back all look like they were currently being lived in. As you scroll through, they had interior photos, and so what this must have been is somebody who built all of these as a development and essentially owned all of them, and then for whatever reason, you know, they ended up going to the tax sale. But
Holy cow.
really
I mean,
interesting.
8 of these units, each one of these units probably would rent out for at least like $1,500 a month, maybe more, maybe $2,000 a month, potentially more. I mean, and so that's quite a bit. You're talking about probably $15,000 to $20,000 of like monthly revenue,
Yeah, well, in this area, I think it'd even be more than that.
probably.
If they're 2 to 3 bedrooms, let's say they are 3 bedrooms each, couple of bathrooms.
$40,000 deposit, additional deposit due in 24 hours.
Yeah, click on the map real quick. Yeah. So as you're scrolling, you can kind of see the layout of them. There's that front one, and then there's the other ones.
You can see it right here. It's a pretty good little unit, pretty good little complex. There's enough parking for it. At least, it's not terrible with parking.
No.
But yeah, they're all similar there in size and got September 2025 image right next to this park. Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, go back to that listing one more time. And kind of go back from here. Go back one more. You can see some of these properties that sold over here on the right-hand side. Scroll down a little. They didn't have any of the addresses there, so we'd have to try to find the old records. But I looked at this Sterling Inn that sold for 600,000, and I've got a couple of links on that Google Doc that have information about it. I thought it was kind of interesting to look at it. Go up to the top. See where Sterling Inn. Click here, click.
Yeah, there's.
But it's kind of a historic building there. It had been around. You can look at some of the photos here. This was them talking about rezoning it. There's like 6 acres there as well. So I'm not quite sure what's happened since then, but and maybe it's on this looking at the photos here, but they have I looked up all these old photos where you see all these old cars. It's been kind of a big gathering place for quite a few years. I think they were looking at redoing a restaurant and a bar and a coffee shop and that kind of stuff in the bottom, and then upstairs they were going to make them all into apartments.
That's pretty cool.
but you do see kind of interesting properties that come up for sale. And something like this would take a lot of work. I think they were talking about between $1 to $1.5 million to redo everything and make it how they wanted. But if they put all apartments up there, you had a good restaurant, there's a lot of history there, a pretty interesting auction. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of idea of how Massachusetts works. They're going to be sold there on the city level. They're not always going to have massive lists. The bigger cities are going to have bigger lists than obviously the smaller towns, like the town of Spencer, for example. But um, definitely another area of the country where people are picking up, good deals, good opportunity, and being able to buy property for discounted prices.